The Honourable Minister for Foreign Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, we all seen the attacks by Iran against Israel today, and of course we condemn them unequivocally. These attacks from Iran will only serve to further escalate the region, and therefore that is why I've been in contact with my Israeli counterpart this morning, and I've been in contact with many G7 foreign ministers as well as Arab countries' foreign ministers. This is a very dangerous time for the Middle East, and we need to make sure that this war stops. Thank you.
Everyone has an opinion about Canadian federal politics.
Oh, yeah.
Hey gang, what's up? Just Aaron right here, Canadian Looney. How y'all doing? We have video of our Minister of Foreign Affairs, Global Affairs, Trudeau's extramarital affairs. Just kidding. This is MELANIE JOLY, and she's a hard lady to catch on camera. She avoids the press so much. Anyhow, she does a scrum on Parliament Hill. Let's take a look at the video. She's a little simple. What do you think? Leave it in the comments. Anyhow, let's take a look at MELANIE JOLY and her stance on the Israel situation.
And now I'll speak English. So we are here in the context of the summit of the Francophonie to make sure that we re-empower the organization of Francophonie, which is an important organization which Canada co-founded some decades ago. And we're also here to make sure that we promote and protect the French language in Canada, but also around the world. There will be two priorities for us. The first one being education and everything that is linked to the lack of French teachers in Canada and around the world. We know that there's so many immersion schools across the country that are desperately in need of new French teachers. We've created an immigration corridor for French teachers to come throughout Canada and live in Canada, but we want to do more, and we want to partner with many countries to make sure that we are able to educate our kids, our children in French across the country. And the second priority is everything that is linked to the discoverability of the French language on different platforms in the digital space. So we invested, and we were one of the first ones to invest in a new digital platform that is called TV5 Monde Plus, so TV5 Monde Plus. And in that context, we will be renewing our investment in that digital platform. For the rest, if you have any questions that are much more of a geopolitical nature, it will be a pleasure for me to answer. Yeah. So, unfortunately, the foreign minister and the prime minister of Lebanon are not here for obvious reasons, because war is plaguing their country right now. And so I'll have the chance to meet the Minister of Information of Lebanon to be able to talk about what's going on in Lebanon. At the same time, we're working also as an organization on a specific statement on the Middle East, since Lebanon is an important member state of Francophonie.
Given the escalation we've seen this week, how concerned are you about the risk of a wider regional conflict?
Well, of course, I'm very concerned. And of course, our position is the same. We condemn what Iran did last week by attacking Israel in an unprecedented way. And we were all reassured that there was no loss of innocent lives. At the same time, we absolutely need to make sure that this does not become a full-scale war. And that's why we need a ceasefire. We need a ceasefire between Hezbollah and Israel for Lebanon. We also need to make sure that there's a ceasefire in Gaza. And for the rest, we know Israel has said that they would retaliate against Iran. So we want to make sure that ultimately it doesn't become a full-scale war.
On what you just touched on, retaliation, have you been in touch with your Israeli counterparts about
Yes.
Potential retaliation towards Iran?
Yes, and I was just in contact with him a couple of hours ago. Just give me a sec. I need a Kleenex. Just give me a sec. Sorry, thank you. My bad. Okay, merci. Sorry. Yes, sorry.
So you have been in touch. Any anything you can share about those conversations? Is there a plan? What was your message to your counterparts in Israel?
My message is the same. It's been the same, which is, of course, and I've just said it, we condemn the Iranian attack, and we need to make sure that at the same time, well, there will be severe consequences against Iran, against this terrorist regime, which is the Iranian one, and that there's not a full-scale war for the rest of the country. I can give you also an update on the Lebanon assisted departure if you want, and any other questions also. On Lebanon, do you want me to give it? Okay,
Yeah,
so
give us an update on
yeah,
the departures,
yeah.
absolutely.
Okay, good. So when it comes to the assisted departure, today we had 654 seats on 2 different flights from Beirut to Istanbul. We have scheduled a flight for tomorrow. We have another one scheduled for Saturday, another one for Sunday. Around 900 seats have been also secured through commercial flights. So please, if you're hearing this again, I want to make sure that you are brought to safety, and please take the seat. At this point, not all seats are all taken by Canadians and their family. So please, as things are becoming more dangerous across Lebanon, including in Beirut, we saw that there was a strike recently. Please take that seat, and we'll continue, of course, to offer these commercial flight seats because we believe in your safety.
Canada and other Western countries have continuously called for ceasefires. All we've seen is escalation so
Yep.
far. I want to hear your reflections on that. Do you see that as a failure on the part of the West?
Well, I think it's important that diplomacy continues in every single conflict. And I profoundly believe in diplomacy, particularly when you're at a time where there are civilians that every day are dying. And so that is why I'm not only participating in the Francophonie Summit, but I'm also having a bilateral meeting with my French counterpart tomorrow, which we will be definitely talking about Lebanon because we know that France has a history in Lebanon. And we will be also talking about how we make sure that we bring peace and stability to the Middle East. And that's the work that I do as the head of our diplomacy, and that's what that's what Canadians expect me to do in these circumstances. Canada has always been in favor of, in every single conflict, of protecting civilians. Has always been at the core of our foreign policy is a human security approach where ultimately we need to make sure that innocent lives are protected, and so that's why I'm doing that work.
Do you believe the Netanyahu government is interested in reaching peace? Do you think they're a partner for peace?
Well, that's what we want from them. That's what we're pushing them to do. And that's what we've been doing for a long, long time. And that's why we took also sometimes tough measures to make sure that there could be a ceasefire in Gaza, for example. And that's what we will continue to use diplomacy, but also levers to make sure that we push parties to get to a settlement. And I think just something that is really important, when I say that we need a ceasefire because we need a pause for peace talks to happen, to save lives. That's why we were in favor of a 21-day ceasefire. And from the moment that there is that ceasefire that is in place, then diplomacy can be even more, how can I say, can have even more impact. And so that's why we've been calling it, because we need to make sure that ultimately there's no further escalation. And a pause, a ceasefire would really help to make sure that that's the case.
Minister, you've been calling for ceasefires for several months in the case of Gaza, and now you're calling for one in Lebanon. It doesn't feel like the Netanyahu government is interested in listening to you. And you were talking about consequences and tough measures. I wonder at what point do you consider sanctions against Benjamin Netanyahu's government to send a sterner message?
So, by the way, Canada has been calling for a ceasefire since December, but the UN Security Council also called for a ceasefire in Gaza in the spring. So it's the entire G7, but the entire UN Security Council has been calling for it. So first. Second, when it comes to this ceasefire, 21-day ceasefire between Hezbollah and Israel, it was a French and American, agreement, proposal that was on the table. So we've been partnering with these countries, and that's what we do as an important middle power. But we're not the only ones to put pressure on it. And Canada alone cannot solve the entire crisis. But we need to do our work. We need to be principled. We need to make sure that we save lives. And that's why when we take a stance, well, of course, we work with other countries.
It sounds like you're saying you won't consider sanctions unless your allies do that as well.
We've been putting sanctions.
Against the Israeli government, though.
So we've been putting sanctions against the Iranian regime. We call the RGC a terrorist organization back in the spring. We also been clear that Hezbollah and Hamas are terrorist organizations as well. We've put sanctions against extremist settlers for the first time in our history because we're concerned with what was going on in the West Bank. And we also made sure that, and my stance was clear on this, that we would not send any form of arms or parts of arms that would end up against civilians in Gaza. And so these have been ways for us to make sure that we could put pressure. Now, Israel has been attacked this week. Israel must be able to defend itself. Millions of lives are also at risk there. And that's also why we've been clear that Canadian companies could send parts to be part of the Iron Dome because Israel needs to be able to defend itself. So that's what we've been doing. But fundamentally, what Canada wants, what we want as a country, is bring back peace and security in the region, like I think the vast majority of Canadians. And so this is the biggest conflict that has been affecting the Middle East for years, and we want to make sure that we can bring things back to a better place, and that's why we're working on it. So I think that at the end of the day, the burden of bringing back peace and stability to the Middle East is on the parties themselves. We will continue to put pressure on them, and we believe, for example, that when the Secretary General of the UN, Antonio Guterres, is called persona non grata by Israel, it's counterproductive, because we think that UN has a lot of work to be doing in the context of this conflict. And ultimately, what is at stake is Israel's long-term security, while also the entire peace and stability of the Middle East. And so in these circumstances, Canada will continue to be at every single table possible to put pressure on parties to make sure that we bring back that very peace and stability I was talking about. Good?
Thank you.
I hope you have more questions about la Francophonie.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, bye guys.
Everyone has an opinion about Canadian federal politics.
Oh, yeah.
So guys, what do you think about Trudeau's girl, MELANIE JOLY, our Minister of Foreign Affairs, Global Affairs, Extramarital Affairs, whatever? So leave it in the comments. What do you think? Is she qualified? Is she capable of doing the role that she's in? I don't know. Aaron, Canadian Looney, like, subscribe, share, get notified, all those fun things. Come and join the live show. We've got a great gang that we watch the crazy question period every day. We do a live broadcast there. Anyhow, come check it out. Like, subscribe, share, get notified, all those fun things. Thank you for watching this video. We'll catch you in the next one.